Hello folks, I hope you're all doing very well. This video is going to be quite short, but it's just my impressions of the Varjo Aero, having owned it now for 8 months and over 500 hours. That's a long time, and literally I use this headset pretty much daily. And there's a reason for that, and I'll explain that in a moment. So what has it been like using this headset for 8 months? Well, I have to say straight off the bat that when I'm not recording YouTube content, and particularly a specific headset, if I'm just flying for myself like I would be today, I always use the Varjo Aero, particularly for Microsoft Flight Simulator. The reason is I can be in this headset all day long with that sharpness, that clarity. You know what it's like when you've had a long VR session and you feel a bit groggy, your eyes feel a little bit, not strained because they shouldn't feel that way, but they just have to adjust a little bit, when you get back into the real world again. But with the Aero, I don't have that issue. I can take it off after 2 or 3 hours and just feel completely refreshed, completely fine. And it's that reason alone why I like using this headset more than any other VR headset I've ever used. And I've got 8 VR headsets now, including Pimax and the HP series of headsets, the Quest 2, and they've all got great qualities, of course. But the Aero, it stands above all of them. And I've said this from day one, and I do feel that even now with the onset of some new headsets being announced, I don't think anything is going to really compete against the Aero's pure clarity, and that is because of the spheric lens design. It really is incredible, and you have to experience it, folks. And pretty much everyone, in fact, everybody that has bought an Aero that I've spoken to has been incredibly blown away with it, and I've had the pleasure at times of being there when some of my subscribers have tried it out for the first time. Particularly I'm thinking here of Uwe, my good friend in Germany, who when he tried the Aero for the first time, I had sort of a front row seat and I could hear him getting quite emotional about it, and that's how it feels when you try it for the first time. So there's no surprises really when I say that this is still my most favourite VR headset of all time. I can't see that changing anytime soon. But what are the things I've learnt about this headset over the past 8 months? Well, one thing that I am frustrated with, and that is Varjo have still not got motion reprojection sort of embedded within Microsoft Flight Simulator and various other sims. It really would be nice to have full motion reprojection support, particularly in OpenXR mode, because that would be the icing on the cake. Now don't get me wrong, at the moment I'm getting about 50 frames per second, and flying over these mountains here, everything feels very smooth. But if I do this with my wings, not sure if you can see that on the mirror image, it's very juddery, and it'll always be like that unless you run at 90 frames per second, not going to happen, or you have motion reprojection enabled, and that's something I really do truly miss. And that is why I still love the Reverb G2, especially for that reason, because when I'm flying low to the ground, I'll often use the G2 over the Aero if I want really solid, smooth performance over the ground. So that's a big area that I'm hoping is going to be improved over time. What else? Well, of course, even with this sort of micro LED configuration, you're not going to get true black levels. That is an area where hopefully Varjo can look into, pardon the pun, in order to give you those deeper blacks. I think the only thing to mention really is the build quality. It's stood up the test of time. I use this headset pretty much daily, folks. I really do. I reckon I've used the Aero more than anybody else. Now with the OpenXR toolkit, and of course with the dynamic favorited rendering, this is a headset that is very much future-proof, and it's only going to get better. I think some people don't realise that, particularly with this distortion profile. That was an area that was always a bit contentious and a bit of a problem. Varjo have really knocked it out of the park with the latest firmware. It's just not an issue anymore. It really isn't. I personally didn't find it too much of a distraction, but that's because I think I'm so used to this headset, and your brain does adapt anyway. But it doesn't matter, because now it looks as good as any Fresnel based headset in terms of the distortion profile. It just looks superb. They've really done a fantastic job there. I suppose another negative, while I'm thinking about it, is the audio solution, but that's an obvious thing, you know. I said this even in my review video, that it doesn't have integrated audio like the Reverb G2, which means, you know, you're going to have a different solution. Some people actually find that as a positive, because if they want to use their own wireless headphones, which is fine. If I'm not recording, I'll actually use my monitor speakers, so it's not really much of an issue for me personally. But having said that, the Reverb G2 totally wins on that one, of course, and I've mentioned this in a few of my reviews now. That is so gorgeous, look at that. So like right here at the moment, I can see completely to the horizon, to that sort of mountainside there, that ridge, and all those trees, the lake, everything is so crystal clear. And it's not until you go back to a traditional Fresnel based headset like the Reverb where it's quite a shock. It takes me a while to get used to that headset again. And once I, you know, use it for a few hours, I'm fine again. But when you have edge-to-edge clarity like the Aero, it really does. It totally spoils you for life. So to recap, folks, after 500 hours, 8 months of daily use, this headset still looks as good as it did when it was new. You know, it's funny because even though the head strap does seem a little bit flimsy, it's actually really strong, and there's been a lot of R&D work gone into it. I personally feel that this headset is a lot more comfortable than even the Reverb G2. I think some people get confused about how to use the headset, how to put it on. Think of it as a baseball cap. It's actually the opposite way than you would expect from, say, any other headset. You have to put it on like a cap, and at the moment it's kind of floating above my nose. I never have any pressure on my nose at all. It just kind of sits there and it never moves, and I can use this VR headset for hours and hours and hours. I think the only negatives are that I'd like to see better black levels. I really want to see motion reprojection in the near future, and yeah, that's kind of it really, because the audio solution, well, that's just the way it is. It's not going to get any better. That's just the design of the headset, and you'll either love that or hate that. So let me know in the comments, are you still tempted by the Varjo Aero? I have to say that I know it's expensive, but think of it as an enthusiast level VR headset. People out there are quite happy to spend $2.5 grand on an RTX 3090, or even $2 grand or more on an OLED sort of triple screen. Well, that's basically where this is at when it comes to VR. It is the absolute best VR headset out there, and if you want the best, it is the Varjo Aero, without a doubt. And even with the latest crop of VR headsets on the horizon, of which some I do know about, I don't think they're going to touch the Aero for that pure crystal clear display. Thank you so much for watching, folks. As always, I really do appreciate it. Please feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye bye for now. Hello folks, welcome to Microsoft Flight Simulator. Once again, we're flying over Northumberland, North.